Also, a big part of this review video is answering some questions that you guys have had and asked me throughout the entire time that I've actually had the bike. I think I promised a review video at 20 something thousand kilometers, 20 or 25 I think. It is now currently on 52,809 kilometers. So I think it's time to make that review video. What are the pros? What are the cons? I've asked a couple of times on my Instagram what things are that you would like to know. And please do not hesitate to put any extra questions in the comment section and I'd be more than happy to answer them. A small side note, I am nowhere near a technician, so don't expect any real technical talk. I'm just gonna run you through everything that's on the bike. I am in the Dolomites. It is 2nd of June. I'm hoping I can keep it dry because it's been raining non-stop and it's raining in the distance. So let's get to it. Let's start at the very beginning. How long have I had the bike? When did I buy it, etc. I ordered the Desert X in November 21 and I picked it up in early July 22. The main thing that everyone always wants to know is Ducati still unreliable? In the Netherlands we have the joke Ducati stuk gaat-ie, which is roughly translated Ducati it will break. I must say I've ridden older Ducatis as well, and ever since Audi took over it's a lot more reliable. Not that I didn't have any issues with the bike, I will come to that later. It's so in sync with me. And I love that. I didn't have that on any other big adventure bike. I've test rode a few, not all, but a few, and it doesn't come close. So for me, this is just the ultimate all-round bike. All right, let's talk some gear. I think it makes the most sense to start with the most obvious product on the bike, which is the Mosko luggage. I've been riding with it now for more than a year. And the whole idea, because I had the aluminium panniers from Ducati, the OEM, but shortly after I realized, crap, I want to do some more off-roading. It just didn't make sense to do that with aluminium panniers. And so I started looking into nice soft luggage options. I must say it didn't take long before I noticed the Mosko Moto bags. It has been a true blessing because it is so easy to take on and off. It is well thought out. It is like an outdoor brand, but for motorcyclists. Hope I can keep this dry, guys. Ever since I got the Mosko Moto bags, it has been on the bike non-stop. For every trip, every journey I've had it on. I've changed some small things. I've changed tank bags a couple of times. I added a few, I must say. The Mosko Moto panniers and all the luggage and tank bags and the aux pucks on the crash bars, it has enhanced my journeys a lot. So let's start with the panniers. It is super easy to take them on and off. You see, you have the backing plate, they call it the wedge, and it has a spring here which locks into the plate that stays on the frame, that stays on your pannier rack. And that's that. I have tipped the bike over more than I would like to admit, but these ones held up and I never had any doubts. Is my gear still safe? Is everything still in one piece? It is surprisingly strong, and if you look at the damages that it took, I wouldn't say that it is tipped over for more than 30 times. Let's continue to probably the most asked question on my Instagram is how did you attach the bags on the crash bars? It's actually pretty simple. I use foil straps, which are kind of like bicycle straps, and it's just a very easy way of attaching anything and everything to the bike, to the bags, to molly systems. You take out the bag, and then the harness stays behind. And that is actually one of the neat things about the Ox Pockets, is that you have a removable bag, which is, by the way, waterproof. I don't want to deattach it because it took a lot of effort to get it on here, but I will show you some details on how I fixed this. So you have these pockets, which you can get behind for extra strength without, well, blocking the inner bag. And then you just loop it around the crash bars, pull it real tight, and then just loop it back. It cannot go anywhere, and it's much more solid than zip ties. When you are done with adjusting the placement of the harness, you place this one back. It's a bit full because I have my tools, etc. in here, and then you're good to go. In my opinion, you either hate or love a tank bag. I was always so skeptical because I thought it looked ugly, and then it's not convenient and it gets in the way, etc., etc., etc. But the more I've been using them, the more I have to admit, it's freaking handy. I have a Peli case for all my camera gear. I have this one for the small essentials like chargers, cables, batteries, etc. And there is just no way I'm ever gonna go back to riding without a tank bag on my travels. I have it looped around, well, underneath my steering dampener. There is a bracket which holds practically nothing, and the steering damper is untouched, but then I can just click it out. You leave on the harness, and then you have a loose tank bag. It's very convenient if you want to hop in the store, not lose sight of your essentials if you carry them in the tank bag. And it's just super easy to pop on. You just click it in, get it in front of the harness. I do have to watch out that I don't leave these two pieces dangling here, because otherwise it can get in between the steering dampener, and we don't want that. So when I'm not using it, I just cross it above and underneath, and then I'm good to go. One of the latest Mosko additions to my gear is the Wildcat. Now, I was super skeptical about riding with a backpack because my neck and shoulders really tense up during rides. Every time I get the question, why don't you use a backpack, and why did you use a backpack with camera? Well, that's a no-go. But in the tank bags, you have the hydro pack, you have the water reservoirs. On really warm days, which I encounter quite a lot lately, I just want to be able to drink straight away on the bike. I can just lift my helmet a little bit, put this under, and then just continue riding. It doesn't feel like you have anything on there. And especially with the chest harness. Now, maybe it's a bit different for women, obviously, but the distribution of the weight is like not even there. I don't feel this backpack unless I put 3 liters of water in the back. Then yes, I notice that I have a backpack on. If you would like to know more about the Moto products that I'm using, please do check out my website. I have a dedicated gear page with all the essentials that I carry from the brands that I work with. What is an adventure bike without proper protection? I started out with a lot of Ducati's own crash protection. Every now and then you just see something and you're like, wow, that's impressive. I came across Laurie's videos where he just smacked a Desert X on its side and just have it torn over the ground. I was like, what? You're just doing this with a brand new bike. Like, okay, you must have trust in your own gear. But then I came to realize that that's how he tests everything for new products. And I think that's a proper product testing. Ever since we started working together, I have been with them to the trip on Sicily to make the content for their new aluminium panniers, which, by the way, goes on the same system. So if you want to have the possibility to change between soft and hard panniers, there is your solution. I know myself, I drop this bike more than I want, but yeah, it's very much worth the investment. One of the key features of Lori's gear is that Outback Motortek has an amazing strength and thought process behind them. The crash bars, they exist out of two different parts. So when you crash, it's not one part getting into your fairing or your decal or like your tank, but it has movement to bend a little instead of having your whole crash bar coming inwards. Let me clean that off a little bit. A big plus to this skid plate in comparison with the OEM Ducati is that this one covers a lot more. So what is one of the first things that you change on a bike when you get it? My guess is exhaust, tail tidy, mirrors, maybe a nice colorway or a sticker set. But I think the majority of people tend to forget that some things that are not as obvious and in sight can be a really big change to the motorcycle. I have the rear shock absorber from TFX in here. You have seen my videos or not, but you see that I ride around with a lot of gear. I bottomed my bike so many times. It's just, oh, you are on the road or off road and you hear and it's like, oh, it's hurtful, really. But now that I've got this custom fitted to my bike, it is lowered, by the way. They shortened the spring because my bike had a lowered suspension already. If you are struggling with that, it doesn't react the way you want. Also in the corners on the mountain passes, just locking in the corner and just go is such a big difference. It is a little bit hard to show because of the plastic, that it makes it turning the spring preload up and down gets a little bit harder, but not unmanageable. So I will take off the seat and then you can see a little bit of the upgrade. So if I ride with luggage, I put it all the way up, and when I ride without it, I just turn it back, which is a bit hard to do because this is in the way, but then you just turn it back. This is making sure that I don't have any issues with bumps and everything that comes my way, even when I'm heavily loaded. So with this blue knob I can adjust the rebound, but I leave this as is. Maybe if I go into off-riding then I will adjust it, but for road rides I just leave it as it is. Keep a close eye on how the bike comes up again after I push it down.
Kijk, dan komt hij mooi. Hij komt wel rustig terug, maar wel snel genoeg.
It is a bit hard to show because it's behind this cover, but you have the compression dampening with a low and a high speed. That determines how much rebound you get in an upwards or a downwards movement and how fast or slow that is going to be. Now this is going to sound really cliche, but there's a truth in everything. I really wish I knew about this upgrade sooner, because that nut would have only made my life a whole lot easier. It also would have given me more trust while riding heavily packed on and off-road, but maybe especially off-road, because I don't have to worry anymore about bottoming the bike countless of times and having to hear that. It has been an update that I may be most excited about. Well, I mean, this one is also pretty cool and pretty helpful, but this suspension thing, I can advise it to anyone. I am 100% sure that every creative traveling, whether it's a motorcycle or a car, in this case the motorcycle, they are worried about having gear with them and having it safe. I have carried it in a tank bag, carried it in a backpack, in a side aluminium pannier. That was kind of okay, but I didn't have a good enough bag to get in there. It was kind of loose in the pannier, so also not a very good idea. In the end, I started riding with my gear in the back. I had the Scout duffel bag from Mosko, in which I put a Peak Design camera cube, and it just barely fit. But the issue with that is that you have a duffel bag that is strapped to the side. You have to roll it up, you have to open it, get into the camera cube, and it's just so many steps before you have the camera. Hence why I had my camera around my neck a lot of times. A few 100 meters further down the road, I would be stopping again and wanted to make another picture. It was on top of my annoyance list. So in the end, and I was looking at this for a long time, but I was so hesitant because it is such a big box and I do not like the look of a top case on the Desert X. So I forgive myself that it's a Peli case in this case. I tried almost everything, I think, in the book, but it was time to get a decent upgrade. I have 3 layers of foam in here, 1, 2, 3, and then 1 layer on the bottom, and of course this one that came with the whole set. I have traveled with it now for along the lines of 2,000 kilometers. The highway, mountain passes, and some not intended off-road, but it's so freaking sturdy. Some brands do have like the plates that you can use for the top cases. I really wanted this because I know how strong the Mosko wedge is. Yeah, it's a Sunday. What I did is, is there more coming? No. I have a shitload of longboards at home. For anyone unknown with longboards and skateboards, it's like you have the wooden board and then you have the wheels, and the thing that holds the board and the wheels together is called a truck. They use bushings. One is very soft and squishy and the other one is very hard, so it makes it more hard to move around with the truck. A long story short, I wanted to see if I can put the bushings of my longboards in here. I don't have any spare ones anymore, so I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna go with something else. What I did now is use, these are kind of like rubber pads that you put under the washing machine. As you can see, I have used some of Mosko's pucks, make it a tight connection, but I did have to cut out a little piece of the Perun Moto luggage rack here and there. I know this is not a solution for everyone. Of course, I went with a pretty big Peli case because I just want to make sure that all my gear is safe and protected. It is a pretty easy solution. Ah, there it went in one go. But not for everyone, like I said. I really still have to get used to this big thing in the back. But having this easy access and just grabbing everything, close it off, and be done, it's gonna be so much time that I'm gonna save with this, and so much annoyance. It's not only the big updates, it's not only the most visible things, I also have some smaller upgrades installed. And I'm actually looking into a dashboard change, a whole new layout, but for that I need a bracket of some sort. So I'm scouting around to see if I can find anything that works for the Desert X. I was going crazy with my own setup because I had the dashboard, the TomTom, I had the GoPro, and then my phone, and it was just too much. Fair to say that a phone nowadays is the most used gadget, or the thing we carry with us everywhere 24/7. Most of us, at least. I have been a long-term user of the Peak Design phone mount on the motorcycle. And about this one, I get a lot of questions as well. How can it survive all the vibrations from the bike? Well, I will explain to you that this head, this is the ram mount arm, and the head on the ram mount ball is the only piece of equipment that you need, because the vibration dampener is built in here. It uses a soft and a hard locking mechanism. It's so easy to get the phone off. It's like one button on the side. You don't even have to press both of them. You can just push one and then just take off the phone. The best thing is that they're gonna come out with a charging head. How's that for good news? I have used the Doubletake mirrors now for a while, and I just recently have gotten my hands on the new system, which is their own system, which is a lot stronger, a lot more practical to use, and let's face it, it's just an unbeaten system. And right below the mirrors you have the Barkbuster handguards. Now I think every ADV rider should have a set of reinforced handguards. Also, a big part of this review video is answering some questions that you guys have had and asked me throughout the entire time that I've actually had the bike. One of the main things that people ask me is, how tall are you? How tall is the bike? Can I ride it? Is it gonna be big, too big for me? All I can say is, don't let people tell you what you can and cannot do. If you feel confident enough to get on a big bike, because it is a big bike and I am not the tallest one, then go do it. Please don't let anyone ever tell you that you shouldn't be riding a certain bike. That's your decision to make. With that being said, because I think that is very important, I also got the question, is it a good beginner's bike? I don't know where to start with that question, because what is a beginner's bike? It could be a wise decision to start on a somewhat lighter bike, but then again, by all means, go buy the fucking bike if you want to. So it's one of the things that annoys me the most when people are telling others, especially riders that are just starting out, what they should and shouldn't buy. I think you should be the judge of what you can and cannot do. So the maintenance is something that I got lots of questions about. And so I think for the maintenance, except like the standard, the Desmo service, etc. For me personally, I change tires every 10 or 15,000 kilometers. Depends if I've done off-road, depends if I've done a lot of highway, because I really don't like my rear tire being flat. You can always check with the mechanics what is your hourly rate for the workshop, and since this is a new bike, it has 4 years of warranty. I don't want to mess with that because there were some issues that I needed my warranty for. I am in good relationship with my dealer, Ducati Amsterdam. They get a lot of work from it because I travel a lot. So everyone's happy, I'm happy. I have a good service bike. I can always count on their service, and it's just 1 + 1 is 2 for me. I don't really like to service my bike anywhere else than the official dealer, especially not with a new bike. How long does it take to change the air filter? Well, as you probably may have read or seen, the air filter is a big thing on the Desert X. I have removed the OEM filter and I've placed a DNA air filter in there, which means I have a little bit less maintenance to do and I don't ride dusty pads every day. So in terms of taking it on and off, I think I would mess that up big time. So I just leave that to the professionals. But changing an air filter, if I would do it, it would take hours. But they say you can do it in like 20 or 30 minutes, depending on how clumsy you are. Why did you choose Ducati over any other motorcycle company? For me, that's a no-brainer. I've tried so many bikes, but it doesn't have the same feeling that I get with Ducati. I'm not exclusive. I do like other brands, but in terms of riding, this for me is the bike. I just don't know what it is about it. It has the right amount of torque. It's sporty. I like that I have to work a little bit. I like the 2-cylinder bikes more than the 4-cylinder bikes. The used materials are just better than some other brands, in my opinion. I love the look of the Desert X. Ever since I saw the EICMA prototypes, I was like, oh, if that comes out, oh my god. I was already looking at an adventure bike back then, but I was like, okay, if this is becoming reality, then I'm the first in line to get one. I was actually the first one in the Benelux to get it, so that's pretty cool. That also resulted in me having a few issues because I had one of the first ones. Let's see. What do you hate the most about this beauty? Well, I don't know. I think that it's high. That was one of the things that I really hated, but I got over that. I got used to it. I got it lowered. One of the other things that I might hate is that I have to fill up so much because it's really inviting to ride it very sporty. But not so much things I hate about this bike actually. Yeah, okay, no, wait. The handlebar. When I'm on the bike, it's very hard for me at times to be all the way. As you can see, I have to like really reach. That is one of the things I truly hate about the bike. How is the new color feeling? Now, mind you, these are questions that I got throughout the whole period that I've done the last makeover video. I am still loving the new color. You can read in my blog on the website that I actually wanted to go with a kind of a green color. And I'm really happy that I didn't, because I think I would become pretty sick of it pretty easily. The sand color is still, I love it. It's a little wink to the Enduro Multistrada, so still good. Dream bike right there. How is the heat from the engine or the seat while riding in warm weather? Everyone said to me that I would be screaming from the heat that would come off, but I must say it's not that bad. Yes, of course, in the summertime it gets more hot, but nothing excruciating that I just want to jump off. No, not at all. My monster gets more hot. I don't know how others have experienced this, but for me, I don't notice the extreme hot temperatures. How much kilometer radius do you get out of one tank, give or take? Depends on the riding, but if I would be on the highway, easily 350 kilometers. If I do a little bit of mix, so to say highway, villages, maybe mountain passes, then I think around 300 for sure. I also test the spare tank. If it's going on red, I still have around 50 kilometers to go. And after that, it's done. I stood still in Sardinia. And then Alessandro had to come with a bottle of gasoline. Any extra mods required straight away? I think this is a good thing to get back to what I said earlier, that some things are just worth the price tag in terms of getting the bike enhanced and more reactive to your own riding style. How you buy it, it's not that bad. I mean, even the standard exhaust has a really nice rumble to it. I do think protection is a very, very important part of any bike. So I'd say radiator guard, crash bars, maybe something on the back. I have like spindles on the how do you say that, the axle, and like the, how do you call that, the paddock stands, which can save, it can just save you in some situations. Just protection overall is, I think, a good first modification for any bike. Do you have stalling issues when even in neutral, that it's a little bit, makes it almost die? I did have some issues with shifting gears in the quick shifter, that it gets into neutral between 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 sometimes, but that's just a thing of putting more power behind it. Because if you are too sweet, if you are too kind with the Ducati, it doesn't shift like you want. So just get in there and then just have a good shifting machine. Do you have to be a badass like yourself to buy one? No, you don't. Anyone can buy it. That's a very easy question. Electronics, good or bad? Don't ask me why, but I've never heard anyone complain about this. But if I have it on cruise control, I cannot ride certain speeds. So for example, I cannot ride 75, or I cannot ride 126 or 47, or you know, it's like the most random numbers that I cannot put on the cruise control. I really like to be on 100, 105, 110, 120, 125, etc. I like to be in steps of 5, but I can't with a lot of with a lot of speed. So that was messing with my mind, and I haven't heard anyone with the Desert X about the same problem. So maybe it's just me. Fuel efficiency, well, I kind of already spoke about that, but a good 300 kilometer range, and I think I have to check what my it's around 5.5 liters on 100 kilometers. I'd say that is not too bad considering the sporty kind of riding style that I sometimes have. So yeah, it's not that bad. Can you say what you would improve on the bike? The height? Make it more accessible for shorter people. What would I improve on the bike? Well, I mean, the improvements that I made are very obvious. I changed the color and I changed some of the designs and the graphics, but overall I think it's a pretty solid design. Well done, Jeremy, who I've met in Barcelona last year. In my opinion, why would I have chosen this over the Multistrada V4S? I love the Multi V4 and the V4S, but it's just not my bike. And I really want to be able to do everything with it. And I don't know, this is more suitable in my mind, at least, for off-roading. And I just love the looks of this one better. I love the handling more. So even though the Multistrada in every kind of way is a fantastic bike, I really prefer the Desert X in terms of looks and handling. How is the long distance travel comfort? I must say that it's been pretty good, actually. I've had days where I have been riding for 8 to 10 hours and still get off and feel like, oh, okay, I could go for another 2. But it's the bum. Yep, sometimes it's like, oh, and then you know it's time to call it a day. How about the off-road experience? I am not the most experienced off-roader. I probably will never be, and I accept that. I accept my fate, but I was really surprised how easily I could get through certain patches, and I was like, whoa, okay, I did not expect it to handle this easy for such a heavy bike. So I think to answer the next question, is it light and maneuverable enough for serious off-road riding? If you are skilled enough, then fuck yes. I don't know if you have seen Antoine Mayo, who is like the ambassador for the Desert X. I don't know if you've seen him ride. Okay, yes, he is a multi-time champion, motocross and everything. But if you have serious off-road skills, then this should be no problem for you, especially having this big wheel and the center of gravity. I really love it, and I really wish I had more experience because I would ride the hell out of this beast. Everyone is always eager to know what goes wrong with a bike, and it hasn't been any different from the questions that I got if I had any problems in the 50,000 kilometers that I've ridden with this bike. Yes, I have had some obstacles with the bike, not major ones, but few inconveniences, and one of them was pretty recently actually, the dashboard and the lights in front. It all just went out, it was black. I stopped and I thought to myself, okay, if I shut it off, can I start it again? Didn't think about it anymore, just turned it off. And then I wanted to turn the ignition back on. I didn't see anything, but I could hear the engine click. I could hear that it was reacting, but I just couldn't start anymore. And so I called my dealer. I said, hey, I think it's a fuse, but could you check which one? So they helped me and they said, well, you have to replace this one. I did, started it up, and then the dashboard was working again, lights were working again, etc. It hasn't happened within a month, but then on the recent trip, I had the same issue. Getting the bike out of the van, getting it in, I just had it started, I just wrote it in, etc. No issues whatsoever. I took it out 2 days later and the bike didn't start. Same issue. I was like, okay, well now I at least know what it is. So I just changed the fuse and then I rode off, and within 2 minutes it was black again. I went to a local Ducati dealer and they checked everything for me. I thought it was maybe like a disconnected cable from the dashboard to the back. That wasn't the problem because it still happened. So I think I've blown 5 or 6 fuses, and they asked me like, do you think, could it maybe be a battery issue? Because the lithium battery, it's strong, but it also was very non-reactive with cold weather. So after one night in like maybe 0 to 5 degrees Celsius, it didn't start anymore. So they changed the battery for a regular one, and now I haven't had any issues. So I hope that was the thing. With the same surface, it was kind of funny, but in the end it was not. I had a new set of Pirelli Rally Streets with me, and I asked them, hey, do you maybe have time to change them? 15-20 minutes later, he comes walking up to me and I said, do you have good news? And he said, no, I think you should come walk with me. And he showed me on the other side of the bike the radiator hose that is near like the upper part of your boot. It was so rubbed down, so I think my boot has been rubbing against it, causing it to be really thin. And he said this could be a major problem because this could snap within a few kilometers or maybe 1,000 kilometers. They pulled apart a spare engine and a spare piece of a Desert X that they had, and they replaced the tube and they put on an extra layer of rubber just so I can replace that piece of rubber instead of the hose the next time it happens. But I was super happy. Ooh, that's thunder in the distance. I was just super happy that they discovered that, because that could have ended dramatically. Now, in terms of other stuff that happened, I don't have the biggest issues. Only thing I had was with the front discs, is that they had a little nick in them, and so they have replaced that under warranty, and I haven't had any issues with it anymore. Oh wait, there was one thing. So the side stand was super long. That was a malfunction from the factory. And later on they changed the side stands for many bikes, but it was so long that it was like standing upright, but like this, even more. I cannot even show, like this. Is it like kind of tip over this side, and I always had struggles with parking it on a mountain pass or anywhere. So I really had to check, how is the surface? Is this lower than that side? And then it was horrible. So at one point I just let the dealer chop off a little bit and then weld it back together, and that helped. And then when I got the lowered suspension kit, they replaced the side stand with it. So yeah, nothing that hasn't been solved. So I'm very happy with the overall bike. If you want to know anything else about this bike, about how I have been experiencing it, please let me know and I will answer it in the comments. Thank you so much for tuning in again. I really hope that you gain some information about the Desert X in this video. If not, I'm sorry. Like I said, it's not a technical video, it's pure personal experience. So yeah, stay tuned for more. New series are coming up, and I think it's gonna get pretty dark. I need to go that way, luckily, but that really doesn't look that good, so I'm gonna pack up and go.